She enters the room and everyone notices. Her hair is perfectly styled, her perfume is meticulously applied, her posture suggests she knows exactly how to be desired. She speaks little, but just enough to seem interesting. She laughs with just the right amount of disdain, like someone who has seen it all, lived too much. The men around her approach without realizing they've already entered a script. She doesn't improvise. She repeats. It doesn't matter if it's a bar, an office, or Instagram, the performance is always the same. And what should be captivating becomes déjà vu. That feeling that you're not meeting someone, you're just occupying the space that others have already occupied before you. The woman isn't really there. She's just staging her presence. And it's at this moment that the truth begins to emerge. Behind the performative confidence, the trained gaze, and the fluent speech lies emptiness. But not just any emptiness. A specific kind. The emptiness of someone who has given so much of herself to so many that now she no longer knows what to give. This woman, deep down, is tired. Not of living, but of repeating. The more she repeats it, the further she distances herself from herself. For her, love has ceased to be a feeling and has become a strategy. Affection has become currency. Connection has become an act. Seduction has become a survival mechanism, and intimacy, a kind of protocol. She feels more in control when she is disconnected, and that's why she never truly surrenders. Because in her mind, surrender is what has always cost the most. And every time she has given too much, she has lost something she could never recover. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said that the more intelligent a man is, the more he suffers. In this woman's case, it's the opposite. The more she suffers, the more emotionally intelligent she seems to become. But this intelligence, in this context, is defensive, not evolutionary. She hasn't developed emotional wisdom. She has developed antibodies against love. It's as if her heart has been vaccinated against the risk of feeling too much. And that's the problem. Because now everything that is too deep, she repels. Everything that is too light, she attracts. And it is precisely in this mechanism that men are attracted and discarded as parts of an unconscious loop of self-sabotage. The most dangerous thing is that this woman won't seem cold. She will seem intense. She knows how to feign commitment because she has already memorized all the phases of the beginning of a romance. She will listen to you like no one else. She will touch your arm at the right moment. She will make you feel unique until you realize that what she does for you, she has already done for 10 others. But by then, you are already involved. And this is where the average man gets lost, because he believes he is facing a strong, mature woman different from the others. When, in reality, he is only facing someone who has learned to simulate depth without allowing immersion. And there is something even more treacherous in this dynamic. Because the man who falls in love with this woman is often the one who carries within himself the desire to be a hero. He believes he can heal her. That he can be the one who will finally touch the heart that no one else has been able to reach. This man doesn't realize he's trying to be an exception within an emotional system where everyone is treated as disposable. And the harder he tries, the more exhausted he becomes. Because he's fighting against armor that wasn't made to be removed, but to be eternal. It's not that she's cruel, it's that she's in survival mode. After so many accumulated micro-pains, she's learned to numb her heart. And like all anesthesia, she loses sensitivity, not only to suffering, but to true pleasure as well. She no longer feels butterflies in her stomach. She doesn't thrill to sincere declarations. And when love begins to blossom, she kills it before it flourishes too much. Because for her, loving has become synonymous with danger. Love demands openness, and openness exposes her. She's not ready to be exposed, she's programmed to hide. You invite her to something real, and she offers you a game. You offer stability, and she responds with silence. You show vulnerability, and she disguises discomfort with sarcasm. And in the end, you realize you're not dating a woman. You're negotiating emotional crumbs with an emotionally retired actress. This type of woman isn't bad, but she's dangerous for men who still believe in love as something that can be cultivated. She's no longer in that era. She lives in an emotional clock stuck in repetitions that seem connected, but are merely reflections of an unresolved past. And no matter how hard you try, The most you'll achieve is being just another spectator of her own performance. Have you ever wondered why, even after an intense night with a woman who seemed completely devoted, you wake up feeling like nothing happened? As if your body participated, but your soul remained outside? This is the effect of emotional depersonalization. It's an increasingly common phenomenon among women who have turned sex into a protocol and intimacy into a validation tool. It's not that they don't want to connect, it's that they no longer know how. They have been trained, without realizing it, to use their own bodies as tools of power, not as extensions of their souls. And just like someone who listens to the same song 1,000 times and stops feeling, these women have had so much emotionless sex that they no longer recognize touch as something sacred. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, almost imperceptible process. It starts with one disappointment, then 2, then 10. Each of these experiences kills the original romanticism that existed within her. Until one day, to avoid feeling weak, she decides to turn the tables. She begins to see sex as something she can also use to her advantage. And when this shift happens, the feminine within her, the one that desires surrender, security, connection, is silenced by the ego. A wounded ego that now seeks control. The body, which once wanted to be nurtured, now becomes an instrument of power. And pleasure, which once arose from surrender, now arises from psychological domination over men. She begins to behave like an emotionally unavailable man, only with more sophistication. She masters the codes, knows the looks, identifies the triggers, and while you believe she's engaged, she's analyzing the game. Measuring your reaction, testing your intensity, calculating how easily you can be manipulated. And no, this isn't a judgment. It's an observation. Because nobody is born this way. This type of behavior is an emotional mutation, a defense mechanism that arises when a woman has learned the hard way that opening her heart hurts more than opening her legs. And there's a curious characteristic in this pattern. This woman doesn't run away from sex. On the contrary, she uses it as a trap. She's learned that the sooner she gets physically involved with you, the faster she can control the narrative. But this involvement is a simulation. Her mind isn't present. She already knows the script. You think you're achieving something rare, but she's just reliving another cycle. Because for her, sex has become a ritual, a soulless ritual. And the cruelest part is that to protect this new self, she'll tell you she's liberated, mature, empowered. But the truth is, she's anesthetized. And behind every phrase about sexual freedom hides a pain that still throbs, even if silently. Remember when Freud said that emotional repression generates neuroses? Well, the new generation of women, on the contrary, experiences the opposite. Raw and repeated emotional exposure has generated a kind of affective insensitivity. It's no longer the demure woman who suffers. She is the overexposed woman who gave so much of herself to men who didn't deserve it that today she no longer knows how to give something real. What remains is performance. A well-rehearsed game, but without soul. Like an actor who repeats the same scene for the 1,000th time and no longer feels the weight of the script. And this cycle creates something even more dangerous: dependence on validation. When sex loses its intimate meaning, it transforms into social capital. And like all capital, it needs to be displayed, commented on, multiplied. She begins to live through the external gaze, suggestive selfies, double-meaning captions, provocative messages. It's not promiscuity, it's neediness disguised as power. With each like, she breathes. With each fire emoji, she feels alive. Because deep down, she fears silence. Not the silence of the environment, but the inner silence. That moment when no one is watching, and she needs to face the fact that she is emotionally exhausted. And it is at this point that you enter, thinking you will offer peace, but she only recognizes chaos. The irony is that this woman will say she wants a mature man, that she's tired of games, that she desires something real. But the minute you offer stability, she calls you boring. Because her brain has been conditioned to confuse adrenaline with love. The tranquility you offer reminds her of the monotony she's learned to avoid. And here's a truth many men refuse to accept. You can't save a woman who's been trained to confuse attention with affection. You can't cure someone who's learned to call neediness empowerment, because what she wants isn't you. It's the dopamine you provide until it loses its appeal. And when you lose your appeal, she activates the next contact, the next suitor, the next cycle. And if you try to confront her, she shuts down, withdraws, disappears. Because what she fears isn't being abandoned. It's being forced to feel again. To face the fact that all this emotional theater was a way to escape her own pain. And then everything becomes repetition. A new body, a similar story, a recycled script. And no matter how authentic you are, she responds with old patterns. Because she's not reacting to you. She's reacting to what other men have taught her to expect. It's as if every man from the past has left a script programmed into her mind, and now you're just updating an emotionally saturated software. And you feel it. You feel that, no matter how hard you try to be unique, you're being put in the same box as everyone else. You offer commitment, she responds with rehearsal. You show presence, she responds with provocation. And when you try to leave the game, she pulls you back in, not out of love, but out of an addiction to being desired. This woman doesn't just want to be loved. She wants to be chosen. Constantly, uninterruptedly. Because love for her isn't about building something. It's about confirmation. And with each new message, each new glance, she gathers signs that she's still worth something. But that value is external. And everything external one day fails. And when it fails, she chases after the next dose, the next quick exchange, the next illusion. And you, if you're not careful, become just another one. Another body in the statistics, another name in the history, another compliment on Instagram before being forgotten in real life. The silent tragedy here is this. You think you're in love with a woman, but in reality, she's interacting with the emotional remnants of 10, 20, maybe 50 past relationships. Each one left a mark, a trauma, a deviation. And today, what remains is a collage of characters she uses to appear complete. But inside, she's empty. And it's not because she wants to be. It's because she no longer knows how to be different. She's forgotten the way back. And if you try to teach her, she'll attack you. She'll tell you that you're being sexist, that you're devaluing her choices, that she has every right to live as she wants, and she does. But you also have the right to protect your peace, not to compete with the past, not to try to build with someone who only knows how to repeat. Not to offer depth to someone who only knows how to swim on the surface. This woman, in the end, doesn't want a relationship. She wants an audience. And when you stop applauding, she'll leave the stage and look for another audience. And you'll be left there with the strange feeling that you experienced something intense, but without soul. Like a beautiful film, but without a script. Like a passionate kiss, but without presence. Like hot sex, but cold inside. She posts a self-help quote, a new photo with a caption about self-love, maybe a melancholic psalm on her stories. She talks about healing, about evolving, about rediscovering herself. But if you look closely, you'll notice a painfully predictable pattern. It's not the first time, nor will it be the last. Because what this woman calls a healing phase is in fact a disguised, emotional preparation for the next man who will take the place of the previous one. She's not healing. She's resetting, restarting the same cycle. A cycle of quick involvement, initial intensity, early frustration, disguised pain, and a new beginning without real transformation. It's like changing the scenery of a theater, but keeping the play. The same mistakes, the same lines, the same pain, just with new extras. This woman lives in an eternal in-between time. She's never completely alone, but she's also never truly committed. There's always someone on the radar. A friend she finds interesting, an ex who still replies to messages, a new contact who appeared by accident. And in between, she declares she's focusing on herself. That now it's about her, that the cycle is over. But the pause is never real, because she's afraid of silence. Too much silence reveals what she spends her whole life trying to hide. She no longer knows who she is without the presence of a man orbiting her existence. Jean-Paul Sartre said that hell is other people. But for this woman, hell is the absence of others. She needs the presence of others to avoid sinking into her own lack of identity. Each new man is like a borrowed mirror. While he's there, she sees a version of herself that she still believes is desirable. But when he leaves, or when she pushes him away addicted to novelty, the mirror breaks, and she runs to find another reflection, another narrative, another fragment of identity. This woman is always working on herself, but the work never ends, because it's never truly done. There's no immersion, there's no confrontation. There's emotional distraction disguised as a spiritual journey. She trades therapy for tarot, introspection for travel, internal confrontation for ready-made Instagram phrases, and healing becomes a slogan, a facade, a discourse repeated so many times that she herself believes it. But the truth is, she never stopped. She never spent enough time with herself to recognize the holes she carries, because she fills those holes with temporary affection, with empty touches, with digital compliments. And that's the great tragedy. She thinks she's progressing, but she's just moving in circles. Because for her, there's no such thing as lasting love. All love is a phase. Every bond is an experience. Every man is a lesson. And this kind of mentality seems evolved, seems mature, but it's just a shield to justify the inability to put down roots. She wants to love, but she no longer knows how to stay. Because staying requires something she's already lost: emotional structure. You start noticing the signs early: the excess of phrases about freedom, the romanticization of detachment, the photos with captions about overcoming challenges but always in a seductive pose, the empowering speeches but followed by a new date every week. It's as if everything revolves around her, but always with someone by her side. Because being completely alone would mean facing herself without filters, without an audience, and that's unbearable. Therefore, when you enter her life with real intentions, with genuine presence, with a desire to build something solid, you become a risk, a mirror clearer than the others, a reflection that shows not what she wants to see, but what she tried to forget. And then she sabotages herself. She starts pointing out flaws in you. She complains about irrelevant details. She tests your limits. She diminishes your presence. And all of this is an unconscious ritual to justify the distance she has already decided internally. Because the more you try to stay, the more she wants to run away. And the cruelest part, she doesn't hate you. She hates what you activate in her. The possibility of a love that demands commitment. A type of bond that doesn't fit into the narrative of short experiences. And since she no longer knows what to do with continuity, she chooses what is familiar: the rupture. And you, who thought you were building something unique, see yourself as just another milestone on the emotional road she travels blindfolded. A road that leads nowhere, because it was designed to go in circles. She's not bad, but she's a fragmented woman, and each piece of her was left behind in a previous relationship. In each disposable connection, she abandoned a bit of her sensitivity, her faith in love, her courage to be vulnerable. And today, what remains is a tired woman, disguised as empowered, an exhausted woman, but still searching for her next crush. Not because she wants someone, but because she can no longer bear the emptiness of not being desired. This is where many men get lost, because this woman, on the surface, seems ideal. She has the words, she has the looks, she has the experience, but she doesn't have a soul available. She lost that somewhere in the past and never found her way back. And you, however whole you are, won't be able to compensate for her absence within yourself. You'll love for two, give yourself for two, try for two, and in the end, you'll still feel like it wasn't enough. Because for someone who lives from cycle to cycle, nobody is enough. Not you. Not the next person. And the most tragic thing is that, when you leave, she'll repeat the process. Post a phrase about moving on. Share a story with a self-help book. Tell her friends that it was good while it lasted. But deep down, she knows it didn't last long because she never stayed. Her body remained, the flirting remained, the promise remained. But she, as a true presence, was never really there. Therefore, no matter how much you try to be different, she's no longer trained to see the new. She interprets everything through the filters of the past. A compliment from you reminds her of a man who lied. An action of yours reminds her of an ex who disappointed her. You become guilty for mistakes you didn't make. And any attempt to deepen the connection is interpreted as an invasion. Because for her, feeling too much is a risk. And allowing herself to love again would be admitting that all the walls she built were in vain. And then, everything repeats itself. She disappears, comes back, disappears again, says she needs some time, but in a short time, she's with someone else. And when you find out, she says it wasn't anything serious, as if what you experienced was just another phase, just another story among many. And perhaps for her, it is, because this woman no longer loves with her heart. She loves with her memory, and her memory is marked by cycles, not by depth. Therefore, when you feel you're with someone who's perpetually in a healing phase, question it. Ask yourself if she's truly transforming or just distracting herself. If she's confronting her shadows or merely masking them with empty phrases. Because what's at stake here isn't just her past, it's her future. And if you're not attentive, you'll waste your light trying to warm someone who's become accustomed to darkness. She's not what she seems, and perhaps she doesn't even know who she is anymore. But you know who you are, or at least you need to find out. Because in the end, this isn't just a story about her, it's about you. About the men who love too much, try too hard, believe too much, and in the end are left with almost nothing. Men who, out of naivete or hope, try to rekindle in women something that dozens of others helped extinguish. But here's the stark truth. You don't have a duty to heal anyone. Your role isn't to save an emotionally exhausted woman from a past she herself feeds. Your role is to protect your peace, and more than that, to awaken your own power of choice. Most men enter relationships as emotional beggars, but those who succeed enter as strategists. They know how to observe, decipher, and position themselves. And above all, they know how to leave when they realize they are playing a game that has already been won by another. And that's why the true masculine revolution isn't about reacting with anger, but about acting with clarity. And clarity requires tools, structure, emotional mastery, understanding the silent codes that govern the game of attraction. Because the truth is harsh. In the real world, men who don't understand the social and emotional game are used as stepping stones for the female ego and then discarded as if they never existed. This isn't cruelty, it's the system. But there is an alternative route, a path that few know, and even fewer master, that of strategic attraction. A man who understands how to trigger desire without begging for attention. A man who masters time, the hidden language of presence, the triggers of curiosity, and the invisible codes that awaken interest in seconds. Because desire, contrary to what some say, doesn't arise by chance. It is provoked, unleashed, programmed. And that's exactly what the Forbidden Manual is about. Direct, uncensored, and brutally effective content, created for men who no longer want to be spectators of their own love lives. Men who have suffered too much from unresolved female cycles and are ready to reverse the equation. Men who want to stop being chosen and start choosing. The Forbidden Manual, How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds, is more than an audiobook. It's a psychological arsenal. It's a tactical formula. It's what no influencer wants to tell you, because if every man knew how to consciously awaken desire, the games would end. But few are ready. Few have the courage to face the naked truth.